Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of Talking Freight, the weekly freight series brought to you by Ceresys, a North American third-party logistics company. As you know, if you've been watching over the last few weeks, Talking Freight is all about giving you, the shipper, great tips that you can go back and apply immediately so you may have more efficiency in your shipping practices and, at the end of the day, save money. So, we've just begun our inbound freight management series. Last week we covered one of the most important aspects, a cornerstone aspect of creating an efficient inbound freight management program, the routing guide. The next thing we're going to cover today are the 3 inbound shipping challenges that you're going to face when setting up an efficient inbound freight management program. Of course, when it comes to anything that you're going to take on, in order to have a strategic mindset, you have to have risk at the front of your mind. When you know the challenges that you'll face beforehand, you're better prepared to develop systems and programs to meet those challenges. So we're going to discuss the top 3 that we see when we help shippers develop their inbound freight strategies. The first one is lack of visibility. Now, in the supply chain space, visibility is a loaded word. What does it really mean? Does it have something to do with tracking? Is it about data? Is it about communication? It's really about all of those things. If you're a shipper and you have freight coming into your facility from a vendor or a supplier, visibility is key. And if you're using manual methods and you're trying to call up a bunch of carriers and get the best price or using Excel spreadsheets for your reporting, it's really hard for you to keep up with things in an easy and efficient way. As they say, time is money. And if you're spending a lot of time using manual methods, then you're probably not going to be as efficient. And when you look at total cost, you're going to spend more money than you have to. So a challenge is visibility. At the end, we're going to talk about a way to meet all of these challenges. So with that said, what's number 2? It's a lack of control. Now, when it comes to inbound shipping, you're placing the order, you're the buyer. Often, the buyer is stuck with the costs and the responsibility for ultimate delivery. Now, that can change as we go into the inbound process, or from previous LTL videos, we've talked about some different accounting options that you can set up with your vendors and suppliers. So we'll go into more detail in a future episode, but the reality is that you may feel like you're kind of hamstrung and you have no control over inbound freight because you're the buyer. That's not always the case. So that's a challenge that you're going to face, and we'll address that a little bit at the end of this video, and more specifically in another video. The third challenge are rising freight costs. This has a lot to do with number 2 and the lack of control. Since you're the buyer, you may not be dictating the carriers you're going to be using. However, when you are able to dictate those carriers, it allows you to get more visibility into the costs. If you can't dictate those carriers, you need to be able to have a good conversation with your vendors and talk about their rates and what they're doing. And when it comes to freight, if you don't feel like you're in control and you're relegated to the rising freight costs and the programs of other people, you might be spending much more than you really have to. So when it comes to rising freight costs, you have to understand what is the outlook and how can I gain control. And when it comes to all 3 of these challenges, one of the best things that you can do is lean on technology. Now, at Ceresys, you may have heard in previous episodes us talk about a few of our customers. We have customers who are distributors who might have thousands of vendors, so they're doing a lot of inbound freight shipping. They lean on technology such as our vendor module that allows them to control the process a little bit better. So whether you work with Ceresys or any other company, or you just get a piece of software off the shelf, lean on a transportation management system to make this process a little more automated, a little more efficient, and so you can get a little more control. So now that you know the challenges, we can start thinking about ways to solve that. A transportation management system is a no-brainer. We'll continue to talk about these issues as we go in future episodes. So in order to catch those, make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit that little bell icon so you get notified each Friday when we publish Talking Freight. We really appreciate you tuning in each week. We continue next week with inbound freight and more educational information to make your freight shipping that much more efficient. Have a good weekend.